running a one-man show tonight. Recording, playing records, drinking whiskey. Got a lot of great things to show you. I have a special whiskey choice tonight for my vinyl happy hour. This is a Woodford Reserve double oaked. I figured I'm getting into some reserves of some really great records. I'm double oaked, so I'm kind of doing a double special for our video tonight because there's a lot of new releases, just the tip of the iceberg, and I still can't even go that deep because we have so many records to talk about. So let's jump right into it. What's going on, guys? I am Skyler Davis from CultureShockShop.com, owner of Culture Shock Clothing and Records right here in Rockford, Illinois. My sidekick, my wife, my co-partner, Lauren, is not with me tonight. She's visiting her sister, so hello to her, and hopefully I'm doing all right, doing this completely on my own. No script, I just roll right with it. I'm a huge music lover, though, and for the second half of this episode, I'm going to talk more about the jazz releases. We're actually listening to some of the great Saxophone Callosus with the Coltrane. We're going to talk more about that. Oddly, it also happens to be on blue vinyl, and the first record of this week I want to talk about is also on blue vinyl. I just learned a little something about Royal Blood, actually. This is a great new release, so we're going to talk about a few more rock releases here first, and then I'm going to section off the last half with more of the jazz releases. And that's why we like to get into these videos every week, because it keeps you updated, lets you know what these indie store exclusives are all about. Some of these, most of the ones I'm showing tonight are actually indie store exclusive, meaning you can only buy these from your locally owned, independently owned, and brick and mortar record stores. So the first one, Royal Blood. If you haven't heard of them yet, definitely fun band, check them out. This is Typhoons, and this is translucent blue vinyl. I've loved this band for quite a few years now, actually, but I've never seen them live. This really cool version is very clear, very translucent, very light blue. They're very dancey, fun, just a good rock band. I didn't realize it's just a two-piece band. I mean, it makes sense. They also remind me of another one of my favorite bands, Death from Above 1979. If you haven't heard them, also check them out. But it's just the keyboardist doing all keyboards and synth and bass lines and vocals, and then a drummer. So it's pretty cool to hear how this sounds like a full-on band, and I don't know how I realized, this is the third album I've heard of theirs, that there's no guitars, so it just kind of eluded me. It's such a good band, a lot of fun, really high energy. You don't even realize you're missing out on that. So anyway, interesting release. So they haven't let us down yet. This is their third full length that I know of. Everyone's been great. This is one I've been really excited about. This is the new Gojira Fortitude, and this is an indie store exclusive as well. This one is going to be on black ice vinyl, meaning it's, it doesn't really look that black, but it's definitely icy clear, kind of translucent also. Gojira, if you haven't heard them yet, another really awesome band to check out. Very metal, very heavy. However, if you haven't gotten into them yet, this is a great starting point, even though I forgot the number. I have every one of their albums. I think this is their 7th album. French metal band, been around for nearly 20 years now, I believe. Their other albums are a little proggier, technical, deeper, heavier, and this one's still heavy, but I keep getting these Sepultura vibes from it. It's got this really kind of tribal, heavy rhythms that come with it, and even the vocals, the kind of shouted, screamed. It kind of makes sense, too, that it has that Sepultura feel because it's very thrashy, too, and kind of more of a throwback for them. Their last few albums, to me, have gotten a little more modern, technical feeling. They're also very interesting because they have a huge kind of a philosophy on a green world and on saving the world, saving the planet. They have a lot of songs and albums that are about some of the waste and destruction that's going on in the world, and about nature as well. They're actually a very naturey band. This one here has really cool artwork too. I've always loved their logo too. It gets all these little vines and stuff around it usually. I love the one album too. I forgot the name offhand, but it's got like this tribal looking moon or planet with like a whale flying under it. It's pretty epic. But this is definitely a great one to start in. I don't know how some of the fans are going to feel if you've been a fan of some of their earlier albums, because this is definitely a little bit of a change, a little more accessible, but it's still heavy, still dope. I really regret missing them. Before the pandemic hit, they had toured. They were one of the opening acts with the Slipknot tour. That would have been probably a really sick show to be at. But yeah, besides this, I forgot to show the insert of the last one. It does come with all the lyrics and stuff like that. Picture of the dudes. Yeah, really great job, really affordable album. Really cool to see how many bands are doing indie store exclusives. All right, so from my rock section of this video, every single album is an indie store exclusive on color vinyl. This one's just a great album. It's finally getting reissued. I forgot to double check to see if this was ever on vinyl. This is PJ Harvey's Her from 2004. Just a great album too. What a great singer she is. They also have been releasing her albums that were either extremely rare on vinyl or not on vinyl, kind of in sequential order. I think they're going to keep going. They've released her first, I think, 5 or 6 albums now. They're doing the demos from each album series too. I've been very busy, and there's been so much vinyl coming in and so much going on at the store that I actually haven't had a chance to check this out. But I'm kind of a sucker for PJ Harvey, and I think I'm going to get all of the demos of hers. Just because it's so cool to hear more of the construct behind each song. Again, these are in store. They're getting released this weekend, and they're also on our website at cultureshockshop.com. If you need to pick these up, you can choose in-store pickup, or we'll ship them to you. Just a quick word about this PJ Harvey album. This is a change for her, and I actually didn't know this album as well either. I had gone more into metal and other things like that by 2004. So it's really nice to hear this album. I had heard it once or twice before, but this is a lot more stripped down. She had gotten, coming from almost like a punk background, you know, somewhere between Elvis Costello and Nick Cave and Patti Smith, to a more electronic sound almost, and slightly more produced. Oh, my apologies. I want Apple Watch. But anyway, so this is a little more stripped down. She did all the songwriting on her own. Very raw, very natural. She even, you can tell, I was reading about how she had tried to use really crappy amplifiers and detuned guitars on purpose, and it does. It gives it that really kind of a raw aggressional feel, and some of the songs are very mellow and light though, but she can go from, you know, 1 to 11 on the flick of a switch. And she had her drummer who worked with her other albums and other bands come in to do the drums, but even the drums are kind of stripped down and things like that, so it really matches well with the types of music she had written for this album. And I think she was kind of refining herself and things like that too, and wanted to do something less pop, less produced, you know, and not just trying to get on the charts or something like that. Just make music as a true musician, just wants to make music even during a pandemic when you can't tour or do anything, or in this case, she didn't want to be on the charts or, you know, just tour for the heck of it. I love the insert too. It's fun to see these pictures of the olden years when we couldn't, when it was harder to take a selfie. You had to line up a film camera in a bathroom mirror. You know, she was probably on tour at venues or something, taking pictures of herself over the years. It's funny to see that as a little flashback to the times when you had to develop film and hope that your selfie or mirror picture turned out not so iPhoneable nowadays. All right, so most of the reissues of her first few albums are still available. The demos may or may not be, so we can check on that. Here's another band. This is a newer release, but it's actually live music that was recorded over the last few tours, mostly between, it looks like, 2010 and 2012, which have been great years to see the Black Angels. This is also an indie store exclusive, 2,000 copies. This is a live set, live at Levitation. But what's really cool about this is not just the music, but the vinyl, the splattery, kind of clear and splatter color vinyl. It's like, it's somewhat, it's not translucent, but it is, you know, light colored, kind of looks like glow in the dark almost, with these pink and red splatters, cool swirly label. The Black Angels I kind of discovered by accident many years ago, because I picked up one of their albums and I looked at it and I thought it was a Black Keys album or something, and I hadn't heard of them yet. This is an Austin psychedelic band, kind of more the modern psychedelic. And I love their album, their artwork, these geometric patterns. I have every one of their albums that they've ever done, pretty much right up here too. They always have just really cool, trippy artwork, even the guitarist. Yeah, this is one of my favorites here, this Phosphoring Dream. But yeah, this is a pretty storied band now. They actually even toured with Roky Erickson in the 13th Floor Elevator years ago. So this would also be a great one to jump into if you haven't heard the Black Angels yet, because this has several of their best songs in the best version, which is live, a good live jam. And it's on indie store exclusive color vinyl. I love, by the way, that they put these little stickers and little notes, because when it's an indie store exclusive, I hate when there's no notes or you're not sure what color it is or how many copies there are. This, when you're flipping through the racks at your local record store, just makes it really easy to see, hey, it's this color vinyl, and hey, there's only 2,000 copies. They are sold out from the distributor already. We have a few copies in the store, though. If you need to pick this up, I highly recommend it. Black Angels live at Leviathan, and this is our Levitation, and this is on our website as well. This is just another reissue, but I just wanted to show it off because it's so cool and so strange. King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard, Australian kind of garagey psych band. This is another kind of a reissue label that have been doing the Fanclub, a lot of really cool, more modern psychedelic. This album is so thick, it's not going to fit in my little stand either. So this thing is super thick. Oh, let's just hold it up to another album to show. It is just, yeah. It's like a ½ inch on each side, above and below all the other records. But this is a reissue of the Polygon Wonderland. These guys are crazy because they wanted to do like 10 albums in 1 year, I remember. I think they ended up getting 5 or 6 done. But this is just super duper thick, heavy reissue. Totally different artwork. And it's got this booklet on the inside with kind of some different art for each track. Super cool packaging. This really feels like a hymn book from a church or something. It is like really thick, thicky gatefold. And, of course, more cool artwork. Very cool kind of, actually it looks very kind of from the Nature Channel or something, but also color vinyl. This is indie store exclusive. The Fanclub reissue of some King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard. There are going to be a few others coming out from them and some live stuff very soon too. But I just want to take a chance to show that off a little bit too because the packaging was so cool on it. So yeah, everything here, yeah, wow. Everything from this release section, and this is, we're not even talking about some of the black vinyl releases that have come out this week. There's so many releases coming out right now. This one though, I loved the packaging on it. Very cool job. This is Endless Arcade from Teenage Fanclub. This is an indie store exclusive too. This is a Scottish band, kind of alternative, almost like a power pop band that started back in the late 80s. So these guys have been around quite a long time. But this is a brand new album from them. They had actually planned on doing this, I think, before this whole pandemic began. They wanted to tour and have this out. So this is a pink vinyl with the download. But not only is the vinyl cool, the jacket is cool because they did this die cut jacket. And you can actually see the insert on the inside. So the indie store version has it not only die cut jacket, but it's on clear, also translucent pink vinyl. These guys, if you haven't heard them yet, which is weird because Teenage Fanclub seems to not be as well known in the States. I know in Europe and of course in Scotland, of course, a lot of people, you know, back in the 90s viewed this as like they're Smashing Pumpkins, they're Nirvana or whatever, you know. This was like a staple to have all the albums of the Teenage Fanclub. So it's cool to see that they're still going, still doing things. If you haven't heard them, and this is actually a little more mellow than even some of their older albums. This album, I would say, almost has a smoother sound of like, you know, Tom Petty and the Beach Boys or something like that. You know, mixed with the more modern stuff, you know. It sounds like even music I'd hear on like a soundtrack or something like I don't know what, but to some sort of movie. Really cool, easy listening, sing-along kind of music. Definitely very power pop vibe though too. So yeah, just wanted to show that off. So that is my rock spectacular for right now, all my indie rock and pop bands and metal bands. Let's get a little more of this. We've got some really cool jazz. I don't know if you could hear a little tiny sample. I was playing here right at the beginning, but I'm actually going to talk about some jazz without showing off any Blue Note releases because there is so much other stuff in the jazz world. I know we've been on a huge Blue Note kick lately, getting all the Blue Note records. Great reissues from some of the rare 50s and 60s albums on the Blue Note label. But Prestige Records also, I got the record on the record player. So that was Tenor Madness playing. That is actually the 70th anniversary of Prestige label. Sonny Rollins Quartet and Quintet. That actually was the only time, yeah, it's the only known recording, this Tenor Madness song, of Sonny Rollins, who is the Saxophone Callosus, playing with John Coltrane. So you've got the Saxophone Callosus, and you've got John Coltrane, who worked a lot on some live stuff and Miles Davis Quintet, and they both, played tenor sax with Miles Davis on many albums. This Prestige label, what's also interesting about this era, all of this was recorded by Rudy Van Gelder, who did tons of work for Bethlehem Records, all the Blue Note stuff, all the Prestige stuff. A few weeks ago, if you hadn't seen our Vinyl Happy Hour talking about the Cookin' with Miles Davis, this is also some Prestige sessions that he did. And they did this on clear, kind of blue vinyl. There's this group I'm not too familiar with called Think Indie, and they actually presented this Prestige 70th anniversary stuff all on blue vinyl. And there's a lot of it too. There's a lot more than just the Miles Davis. You'll notice that this has Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Red Garland, Paul Chambers, and Philly Joe Jones. Well, a lot of people, I'm just trying to make sure that people understand how much more there is in the world besides just Miles Davis, because this lineup also has Philly Joe Jones playing drums, and this Tenor Madness album has a couple of like solo spots where he just booms out. He's stomping on the drums. It's pretty cool. You've also got Red Garland on piano, Paul Chambers on bass, who played on a lot of Miles Davis albums, and Sonny Rollins, of course, and then there's that Tenor Madness song with John Coltrane also playing sax. Even though it's called Tenor Madness, I don't know if you could hear in the beginning just a little bit of mellowness. It's not madness. It's not like they're competing or warring, saxophones. It's just kind of a fun name, and it's actually a little more kind of good dancey almost. So let's show off though, because this is not a brand new release. I should say that. The reason I'm talking about these is because they've been out of stock for so long, and finally all these Prestige records are back. A very limited amount though. These are indie store exclusives. So I'm just going to show off a couple of them that we got back in. These actually came out a couple of years ago. But all the pressing plants and, at the beginning of the pandemic, we sold out of so much of this that it took forever to get it back in. So this is John Coltrane with Freddie Hubbard, Red Garland, Paul Chambers again. This is the Stardust album. I think, if I remember correctly, yeah. So the Stardust album, what's funny about this is this was had been recorded a couple years before it got released, but as John Coltrane, I think These Are a Few of My Favorite Things album, and that song came out and he got more popular. That Prestige actually took some old sessions that John Coltrane had recorded and released them kind of, he'd been paid for the sessions, I'm sure, but got released kind of without him knowing about it or his kind of full approval on it. But this is a really great kind of early John Coltrane when he's still very smooth sax player. Almost sounds like, well, I don't know, kind of sounds like it's like from the Stardust Lounge or something like that. It's a little mellow jazz. It's a very nice jazz album. But I was mentioning is, please watch all of our other videos too if you want to go back and do a little update, because we had a few other things that we had first talked about this Prestige with the Steamin' With, Workin' With, and Cookin' with Miles Davis. These are all on blue vinyl. So it's really cool to see stuff that you don't usually see getting released on color vinyl, like some of these jazz pieces. But anyway, like I said, let's talk more about Sonny Rollins, because he'd actually gotten a pretty cool break and worked really early on with Miles Davis on a few albums. And then he kind of went off on his own and, started composing a lot and playing with a lot of other players. And the other really interesting thing about these is the sound, the way the recording is. It's in a smaller room. This Rudy Van Gelder had his studio in New Jersey and just had everything set up in such a way that you always get like these quality jazz recordings. It's just, in a way, it's almost how you talk about Motown or something, where they had this kind of this shtick down where they were doing such great recordings and kind of teaching and training everyone and wanting to make great sounding albums. But what's different about a lot of these, especially the Blue Note and even the Prestige and stuff, they weren't going for big hits. This was, not really #1 radio hits or anything. But a lot of it is very expensive, and that reminds me, that's why I busted into my reserve, my double oaked Woodford Reserve, because I have a rare record I want to show off. And we've got to tonight because we're talking about Sonny Rollins, and I have to get to it over here. Oh, so yeah, let's just show a couple more real quick. I'll end with that. I'll end with my holy grail or my rare record. But a couple others too. This is the Thelonious Monk and Sonny Rollins on blue vinyl, and Yusuf Lateef, who not only played tenor sax but also some oboe and flute. This is kind of more of his Eastern Sounds album. So it kind of brings a really cool variety to the jazz sound. But I think I'm going to get this one just because I have the original of this one too. This is the Sonny Rollins, which was the Prestige 7029 release with the Modern Jazz Quartet, who you see Art Blakey really early on too, kind of before the whole Jazz Messengers thing, and Kenny Drew. But this looks a little different. I have an original press of this, and just to kind of show it off, and what's interesting about it is how different the jacket looks. It's the same art and everything, same back, but this is a very orangey one. I forgot the year on this. I think is it 53, 54? I think it's really early 50s, but this is quite rare. And on the back, I love how it says John Larson, Room 101. I believe this came from a collection the guy who had this collection was a music teacher or something like that. The value on this, I'm going to say, I haven't checked in a while, I'm going to say it's probably between $300 to $400. So originals of these, this is the only one I've ever seen, too. I think it's the only one I've ever seen, and I've seen so many records, and I picked it up. What's also really odd about this one is it says it's Prestige 7020, even though it is the 7029 release. So that's kind of like a typo, or they call it a misprint. So if you can't find a nice clean copy and, for under 300 bucks, how sweet that, for 29 bucks or whatever, you can get brand new sealed copy, and it's on that limited blue vinyl. But yeah, let's show off. So this is, they call it the Fireworks label. The Prestige label has this kind of like squiggly dooglies all around it. And it shows, where it was recorded at and all this stuff, Prestige Records. Great sounding album, just a really cool early jazz album. This Modern Jazz Quartet, they really wanted to take jazz from that classic, that easy listening and that early bop music to bring in this hard bop sound and kind of change it up a little bit. They were definitely making waves in the music world, even though there's no vocals and stuff like that. They were telling a story, they were speaking, and they were bringing some sound, bringing some heavy heat. They were blowing some really great tunes on these albums. So I just want to make sure that you realize how many great jazz records are getting reissued still, and that are out there to be still listened to and be found. Something beyond your Coltranes and your Miles Davis and stuff like that. So yeah, very cool. Anyway, that's my video for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. All of these albums, except for my original copy of that Sonny Rollins, are available right now on cultureshockshop.com and in our store at Culture Shock Clothing and Records in Rockford, Illinois. So yeah, I just want to say cheers. Thank you so much for watching our video. All right, get up and turn this off.